Welcome to Storyteller. I'm Shannon Cason. Storyteller to Storyteller is creative conversations with me. I'm a storyteller. I tell stories on stages, on pages, and also on my podcast. I do a podcast called Shannon Cason's Homemade. It's on YouTube and Spotify and all those different places. But today, I'm happy to be talking to a storyteller who I just found out about not too long ago, but I admire greatly. Like I fell in love with her story. So today I'm talking to Mother Boomer. And Mother Boomer, I know her from TikTok. I started on TikTok. I never even played with TikTok, but I started with TikTok in the past year. And when I went on TikTok, I started telling my stories, little 60-second snippets of stories that I had already told. And as soon as one like picked up and got a few views, somebody said, "Hey, you should listen to Mother Boomer." So I went to go listen to Mother Boomer, immediately fell in love. It was the richness of her stories. I felt like I knew her through her stories, and her stories were just these little short drop ins where I got so much history, so much culture, so much family, so much love, so much conflict, all these things, and it was just artistically done. And I'm gonna share some of the stories during the day or during this talk, but I want to bring her up. I'm just gonna bring her up so we can have our conversation. But Mother Boomer, that's who I. Yeah. Let me do this. Still getting used to all this TikTok and technology stuff. How you doing today?
I'm fine.
You doing good? How was your Sunday?
This weekend it's been great. Look where I went yesterday. I went to see Rent.
Oh, you went to see Rent? Okay.
So this is a
Yeah.
very exciting weekend for me.
I saw Rent not too. Was that your first time seeing it? Okay.
Yeah.
I saw it not too long ago. I remember that song. I don't know how many minutes it is, but it's a
Five
that
hundred twenty-six thousand.
yeah, 526,600 mid, whatever they're saying. Yeah. I was like, okay, at the end, I felt all good because they were singing that song. Not giving it away for anybody because Rent been out forever. But
I
okay,
know.
I'm gonna tell you this. What I know of you, and you're the first person I've had on here, and this is just starting actually, the storyteller, but you're the first person I've had who I don't actually like know, haven't done shows with, haven't. I just know you through
Through
your stories on
TikTok.
TikTok.
Through TikTok. There's something about TikTok that's very personal. It just maybe because it's in a little phone and you feel so close to the person who's it's kind of like a FaceTime, but it's like different strangers. It's FaceTime or maybe talent show. Everybody's showing what their talents are.
Yeah.
So
And I
it's
I
kind of
know you
cool.
through like those stories, but it's like okay, you obviously a reader and you love the arts, and when you hear someone and they're telling these stories, there's an art to what you're doing. Like I can hear the artistry, I can hear like the writing, and I even look at the comments sometimes that people say about your writing, and they want to read your book, or want more of your writing in some ways. Um, so I just know the stories through there, and then you give us a good history of family and all of that. I can see my family through the stories, but those are the things that I know. Take me or take everyone, I guess, a little deeper, like about your background, maybe if it's any writing in the background or anything like that, but more about your background in life in general. Take us a little deeper.
From New Jersey, from a big fam. Well, my immediate family wasn't big, but my dad's family was big, and so I have a lot of aunts and uncles and cousins, and everybody when they conversate with you, sometimes they will tell you a story, and so then I started, writing down what they were telling me. It really started when one of my aunts had yard sale, a yard sale with no customers. So we were just sitting there. I said, "Aunt, can you tell me about your childhood?" And then she started telling me about she had a teacher with flaming red hair. And so that kind of started off. I wrote that down maybe 25 years ago. And probably 40 years ago, and then I just put on TikTok.
That's something else.
So,
That's something else. Your family, were they a lot of storytellers in your family?
a lot of loud people.
Let's be real about it. We ain't call them storytellers. Huh?
A lot of personality, a lot of attitude, and it's fun. It's like being in a TV show, except the TV show of the people around you is more funny than the TV show on TV.
Did you say New Jersey? My first wife is Jersey, and meeting her family and everything else. And I'm gonna be honest, Jersey, Jersey. I don't want to get in trouble, but Jersey women, we had a we had an interesting relationship. And Jersey in general, just knowing people from Jersey, it's just so interesting out there. Especially even I went to somebody's house, and this was out in the outskirts. She was in North Bergen, I guess it's called, and then in Jersey City. But also we went out to the outskirts, and everybody was big. All the dudes, like I'm 6'3", 250, and all the dudes was huge. I was like, dang, I just feel like everybody's big out here for some reason and muscular, But okay, so Jersey, but you lived a lot of other places. Tell me a little bit about Jersey, and then tell me about some of the other places you lived in your time, because I know that through the stories.
Well, now I live in the DMV. I moved down here in the 80s. I went to college in Atlanta, but I haven't done any TikToks really about high school or college. That's what I'm gonna do this year.
But so you live Jersey. You now live in the DMV. I heard Detroit in there somewhere.
My cousin, yeah. See, that's the road that I have cousins in different places. So I have a cousin that lives in Detroit, and she told me some of her history. And then my aunt moved to California, and she told me some history. And then one of my aunts, who she is, one day I was talking to her, and she said, my mother never let me wear anything red. And I said, wow, that is so poetic and just so interesting. I said, wait, let me get a pen and a paper before you even finish telling me this. So it's just very interesting to me.
So you would document people's stories as they was telling you?
As I became more aware that I was doing it for TikTok, and I want to make sure I got all the details.
Really?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna play that one real quick. I've been figuring out how to do all these things on this computer thing here. So I'm gonna play that one real quick. Let me do this. Pull us up here, and you my tester too. I'm testing out all this stuff. Let me see. Which one was it? I think it's this one. All right, let's see.
Was what hookers wear to attract men. If you wear red, my mother wouldn't let us wear anything red. She said red was what hookers wear to attract men. If you wear red, you are trying to draw attention to yourself. My mother would not let us wear slingback shoes. She said slingback shoes are for loose women. In high school, my mother would press my hair with a hot comb on the stove. I went to the beauty parlor when we could afford it. My senior year, I got a perm. It burnt my scalp so bad I decided it wasn't worth it. I started wearing my hair in a bun in the back. I put pomade and brushed it back. When I was 19, I cut all my hair off and wore an afro. My mother thought I lost my mind. She said, why did you cut your hair? But when James Brown made that song, I'm Black and I'm Proud, I said, yes, I am black and proud. A girl told me, you act like you think you're better than everyone else. And I just told her I'm doing the best I can with what I have. She lived on Main Street, on the other side of Main Street in the projects. We lived in a rented house. We used to live in the projects. They thought that we thought we were better than they were.
That's special. That's special. The thing is with your storytelling, it's these snippets, but each of the like every word, and I don't know if you think of it in this sense, and I like to know, but every word feels like it means something, and every word like takes me into the experience. Do you think about that as you creating these?
I have to really control myself, because if I don't control myself when I'm writing something, I will go off on all these different tangents, and I won't stick to the main story. So I have to, if I see myself writing something that's bringing up a new topic in the middle of a topic I'm talking about, I have to remember to cut it out.
Do you write them? You write them down
Mhm.
or no?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, you do. Okay.
yeah. All of my TikToks I have written down.
Wow, wow, that's
Mhm.
amazing. That's even cool right there, just knowing that everything is
Yeah,
documented in that way as well.
yeah.
Because okay, I played that one. A friend of mine came by and she dropped me off some fruit. And I told her I was eating healthy. And I think she making her move, so she kind of brought me some fruit by the house. And I told her about I said, hey, I'm um I'm interviewing this lady I really like on TikTok, and she likes TikTok. And I played that one. And as soon as I played it, and she's from Belize, and she was like, "Yeah, my grandmother wouldn't let me wear red." And she was like, and I was like, "Didn't you have on red the other day?" She was like, "Yeah, if my grandma saw me, I'd be in so much trouble for wearing, you know." But these little scenes, like not wearing red and sling back shoes and do you just find those out of your memory, or do you find that people
The
relate to
re-
that a lot
the
too?
reason the reason why I like it is because it's like marking time. Because by the time I got her age and I was in high school in the 70s, those things were not taboo. So there were probably some things when she was in the 60s in high school, or my other aunt in the 50s in high school. Like each age has decade has different what's taboo and what's not, taboo. So, and that's interesting to people who are living in a different time,
Yeah.
to hear the social guidelines of what you can and you can't do.
But then it's connections over the years too, like from different generations. Like everybody, like I'm 48, and I'm old enough to know the hot comb on the stove and grandma burning burning my sister neck for because she moved too much, or something like that, So all these things, and then when you talk about red, like hearing my mother and grandmother talk about, well, my mother not so much, but my grandmother, you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So my grandmother had words for it. And when you tell those stories, but I think they go across generations. Have you found younger people even understand these stories?
Yeah, some of them they also said that they had those restrictions too. So it's like it varies, based on where you are. I guess what family you're in, what decade you're in, what neighborhood you're in, as to what is acceptable and what is considered taboo.
Yeah, yeah. Now in on the TikTok too, this is one of the things I always notice. I'm a homebody. I get out, but I get out occasionally. And you just said you went to rent, and all the stories have the backdrop is things moving. It seemed like it feels like you go everywhere. What's the story behind that a little bit?
I'm not driving and videoing at the same time. Like, if I can't get somebody to drive me, then I will Uber. But the Uber man or lady, they don't understand the artistic reasons I'm doing it. Even if I tell them, and they're still trying to get there as fast as possible. And I'm like, you really, if you could just slow down just slightly, because then they're on the brake and I'm going this way. It's like, at least let me have some enjoyment of this ride and maybe make it just a little. I mean, it's Sunday morning and you are driving like, it's rush hour.
But that adds so much texture to it as well. Because the first thing I noticed was the Cadillac. You put the building Cadillac, and then you talked about Detroit a little bit in the story. Because I'm from Detroit. I'm originally from Detroit. But
Mhm.
but how did that come? How did that come? Did you just thought to do that just to bring more
That
uh,
built, that
texture
built,
to it?
I think maybe that building was the one that was right next to the Marriott I was staying in. And when I saw it, I was like, "Ooh, this looks like Detroit." This all reminded it, uh, it's related to cars. And so sometimes I take video of things and I don't know what I'm gonna use them for. But then my cousin started telling me this tale of something that happened in her church. And so I said, wow, that's really interesting. And so I decided to mix the background of the names Cadillac and the other related car stuff, and then tell her the tale of her church, because the guy involved in the story did work in the car industry. So
yeah. No, but that's cool that you think of, like, it's the interest in life as a storyteller, like as a person, like you don't might not call yourself that, but as a person who tells stories and shares stories, because every circumstance is meaningful in some way, bad, good, indifferent, different things that happen. They all raw material. I call it all raw materials for good stories. Do you
mhm.
find that it's like a richer life lived by sharing your stories?
Excuse me. Yeah, it's kind of almost like recycling your memories, because like the one that you did about putting the grass in the construction paper and smoking it when you were little. So I mean, it's in your memory, but then you can recycle it into a story, and then other people can get to enjoy it. Not just the people in your family.
Yeah. But even in life, like just as you go through life, just noticing, and not so much just for the stories, but that's also just living, but also those stories, going through this experience, going through this pain, this hurt, the feeling I have right now, like almost like an examination for me to examine it a little bit more. Like, what am I feeling right now? Am I dangerous? Right? Just all these things I examine, but it's able to bring into the story because I've looked at it a little bit deeper than face value.
Hmm.
Yeah. MotherBoomer, the name.
Yes.
What? Because it feels like mother, and then boomer. It kind of ties into a little
Because
bit of your storytelling, but tell me a little bit more about the name.
well, I'm a baby boomer,
I
and
think I guessed that part.
and I'm a mother. So I tied my two most strongest identities into one identity.
hmm When did you do that?
Um, when I started my TikTok,
It was
well,
just
I had another TikTok account. I think what you do with TikTok, you start out by imitating what other people do, and then the longer you go on, you slowly walk more back towards the things that's interesting about you as an individual, or that sets you up, sets you apart than everybody else.
I love the way you said that, because that's what I've noticed with the social media, TikTok, all of it, and being open to that, knowing that, okay, to start, I got to kind of follow what's working.
Hmm.
That's hard for me because I always want to kind of just do, like, I grew up, originality was reign supreme. Just do whatever's original, and I can feel that in your stories as well. It's a
Hmm.
lot of original. I don't know any other mother boomers, or and maybe some people telling story. I don't know any other mother boomers on TikTok, but the thing is, for me, like, that's hard. So I was like learning that. And as you said that, I love that. You say you started kind of just doing what was other, just kind of imitating, but us not imitating, but just doing what others were doing. But you brought it back to what you wanted to do, you know. Yeah, I like
Yeah.
that.
In fact, some people do write in the well, there are some nasty people to write comments, but some people just write in the comments, "Oh, this is a poem." Like they can actually see that it is a poem. So that's how I see it. I see each TikTok as a poem.
You think of them as poems.
Hmm.
I love that.
Hmm.
No, we relate in so many ways. 'Cause I think of my stories as songs. I
Oh,
think
okay.
I think of them as hip hop songs. I used to be in hip hop, and I think of them as as 90s hip hop songs.
there's
You
one
know,
thing. There's one thing we do not have in common.
what's that?
You said you were 6'3". I'm still trying to get to 5 feet.
Look at that.
I haven't quite got there yet.
You put on them now you tell stories about everything. You talk about your love life, you talk about Yeah, I know you had some heels on sometimes. With the heels, do you get up there?
With platforms, I can get over 5 feet.
See them, you tell you that's what I knew you gonna be real. Them platforms, you put them platform heels on.
And then you put on my music. Your name is Shannon. Do you like that? Do you like Shannon the singer? Let the
Yeah, I
music
like it.
play.
Yeah, disco. Let the music. Yeah,
He won't get away. This thing began or whatever. She says so. I like that music and I like the platform shoes.
what's your go to music? What do you listen to music a lot?
Oldies. Now I love Shaka Khan, Sade. I like Shannon because I like that beat, that style of beat that's in that
Yeah,
song.
yeah,
So
yeah,
those are my favorite singers.
yeah.
Oh,
I
and
can hear.
Barbara Streisand.
Yeah, and I get me as a viewer of your stories. I can hear the music in your stories. Like you just threw out a few names, but I think your music. I know, and even going to the play, I know your music can probably go pretty much deeper than even those people because I can hear the music in your stories. I can hear the music in the words and everything else. Um,
I think because of our age difference, the biggest thing to me would be that hip hop didn't really come a big thing until I was already a senior in high school. So I can remember when Rapper's Delight came out because we went on a fire drill and everybody was singing this thing and the chicken tastes like wood. I was like, what are they talking about? And so it was Rapper's Delight. But that's to me, I get more like the funk, Parliament Funkadelic, Shaka. That's more like gets me sentimental. I appreciate hip hop, but I guess it didn't really wasn't that much in my teenage years.
so the funk, and all, and all those before that, that was a
Yeah,
part of your.
Earth, Wind and Fire, and the Commodores. Those are the music I really liked.
And I love that. See, I love that when I speak to a different generation in a sense, because the thing is, what I grew up with, and then when we at the time of the 80s, and I don't know if my uncle knew how much we appreciated and really actually in high regard thought that they had a better time their music. My
Mm-hmm.
uncle used to have records wall to wall,
Mm,
still into floor with
mm.
records and listening to his records. But I would be like, can I just listen to some of your, because all the music we were getting was from his records. And
Oh,
over time he kind of figured out that that hip hop is an extension of a lot of the funk and the music, that jazz and all the stuff that he loved as well, soul music, all that stuff he loved as well. So
I used to try to figure out why do I like Kanye West, and then I was like, oh, it's the background little R&B revved up he has in the background, and
yeah,
so that's the best part about his music is the R&B that's in it.
yeah. Now we talk about. I want to talk to you about. I see the books in the background,
Hmm.
and I've listened to your stories. Like, what are the qualities that make a good story, in your opinion? Like, what are some of the qualities that make a good story?
This is something that I'm trying to put in my head because the main thing of a story is a beginning, middle, and an end. And I have the tendency to go on all these different topics and to not put an ending on stuff. And so I had to tell myself to put a beginning, middle, and end. Because one of the TikToks I did was about my uncle getting $30,000 in New York. And then people wrote, they were mad. They were like, what happened? Then what happened? I was like, boy, I didn't know. They wanted a more complete end.
They wanted
So
to update. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
so I had to do another one, and I did it right after that one and explained completely what happened to him. Because it was so touchy because he inherited all this money while he was in rehab for drugs. So it's dangerous for somebody that's got a drug problem to get $30,000 in cash, but that's what happened.
I remember that story. I listened to that story. I probably listened to part 2 too, but I remember the first story very well. And um so you do allow some of the feedback from TikTok and from the viewers and from the comments to influence, or to some of the feedback works to let you know, okay, people want more of this, or
Mhm.
I should follow up on this.
Mhm.
And to what degree does that work though? Because I know you get all kind of comments, good and bad. And then how do you handle like the because anytime you in this online world, people just feel like I know they wouldn't say it to my face. I know it, you know.
Block, block, block. That's how I handle it.
That's how you handle it. But
Don't
you
come
do
in
it.
my don't come in my comments cursing me out and all this. And I'm like, block, block.
I love it. I love it. Keep your peace.
Yeah. So, in answer to your question, I do try to listen to what they say that they like. But then, even I can make two stories, and to me, they're equally good. But then one will get barely noticed, and the other one will get really a lot of people like it. So it's like sometimes I'm like, what exactly is it they want? But I just got to put them out, and sometimes it's not predictable what they like.
It's not predictable if it's going. Well, all yours kind of get a lot of views through over 30,000 subscribers, but at the same time, some do better than others. I get it. Let me go through some of these names. Shupaluka or Shupaluki Looky just gave you a bunch of heart eyes. And then Phyllis Wade, I know Phyllis Wade. She said, "Wow." Shupaluki said, "Mother Boomer." Then we have Jersey Women Are Very Special from Phyllis Wade. I agree. I agree. That's much of love from Jersey Women. I agree. I agree. You have to be strong at heart. You know what I'm saying? It's a fun. It's fun. You know it's gonna be fun and enjoyable. And then what's good? What's good? Red Snapper Rochester saying what's up to us. Talk about that, like TikTok. What people who looking to start a TikTok journey, and let's talk about, even especially like older generation, like like moms and even grandparents who want to kind of start a TikTok
Yeah,
and do
because
some
I
things.
think
What's your advice?
I think TikTok is good because you don't have to be able to go anywhere. You can do it right at home, and you don't need any special equipment. You just need your phone. I would say you have to push past the awkward stage, which is when you're first doing it and you feel kind of dumb talking to nobody um, when you're recording. And that affected me for a long time of just feeling just this feels so dumb to be doing it. But then the more you do it, then it doesn't bother you anymore.
So how long have you been on the platform?
First I got on, I think it was April 2021. But at first I didn't put my face, I just put pictures of my mother. And um then I think it was mid 20, was it 22 or 23? I don't know, 22. Yeah, and then I started putting my own face on there. Yeah, so that was like mid 22. And then I got a lot of good feedback from the ones that I put. They didn't have my face on it, but it had like the background of the town or something. And so that's when I started switching to, do scenery instead of talking into the camera. But the first one that I got a really big reaction to, I was like halfway in the camera, but I wasn't fully in the camera.
Yeah. No, that's I'm listening to that advice because it is true. You go through an awkward stage
Yeah.
in so many things we do, but especially on this online, because you're by yourself, and then three people three people. Tell me about when one of them first got a real big response. What was that like?
That was from a story my stepmother told me about when you're in the 50s. By the time you were a senior in high school, you knew who you were going to marry and you knew where you were going to work. So I thought that was fascinating. And so I did a story about that. Now, the surprise story that I did one about when my son went to college in California. And I got like I would say maybe like 6,000 white people liked it. I mean, and I was like, wow, and then I would get comments. He's like, you made me cry. I'm going to call my mom, and that really surprised me. So it's like, I haven't been able to replicate it, but it's just like random. So I'm just going to just keep doing stuff. The
I
topics that
love
I
it.
find interesting.
The topics that you find interesting. I love that. I love
Mhm.
that. I love that. I'm gonna play. Let me play. I'm gonna play another one. Let me play another one. Let's take us up here like I'm testing it on you. You know.
In the hospital, but I think you can handle it. You do polite. I think you should be a cougar. You look young. You should date a younger man. He might put you in the hospital, but I think you can handle it. You do Pilates. He might want you to pay for things. If you ever date somebody older, they should always pay because they're still in your youth. That's why they want you, because they want to steal your youth. You should get remarried. I know you want your independence, but I want you to get remarried in case my toilet breaks. You can't have an older man. You're already taking care of your parents. You're taking care of 3 people that's old at one time is too much. That's too many doctor's appointments. I think you should be a cougar. Find a man about 45 that has old kids, like kids that are old, over 16. So they really don't want you to take them places. If it's kids like to be read bedtime stories and go to Chuck E. Cheese, then it's a no. That's not dating. That's like childcare. You can't have a man that's too young, though. No one under 40. Men under 40, they're too fertile. Men under 40 have too many kids. The reason why I got the idea for that one is I was pretending I was having a conversation with one of my cousins. Like I'm always trying to tell her, you should do this or you should do that, no matter how crazy it is. And so I said, well, if I was talking to her, what would I say? And so I just said it to TikTok instead of saying it to her.
I like that. I love it. I love it. Cause that's exactly what I was thinking. It was dialogue. You know, even seeing your books in the background. Like I love certain authors who use great dialogue, even in movies when the dialogue feels natural. And that's what I felt when I heard that was like a conversation between 2 people. And it had a lot of game in it too. You know, it had a lot of had a lot of I'm sharing some words of wisdom with you in it as well. Do you use that a lot? Like your life words of wisdom, experience, things that you've been going through. Do you feel like you sharing some words of wisdom in some of your stories?
Some of them are wisdom and some of them is not wisdom. Some reality is not wise, but I still share it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Like in the one that I just have now, that's about, I wanted this guy to take me to Atlantic City, but I didn't want to marry him or anything. So I guess that's not nice to use people, but that's what happened. So I had to tell her how it happened.
That's when I heard your I keep saying that, but when I heard your stories, I love that about it. Cause you're being honest, even if somebody looks at you cross-eyed in it, but we all had those experiences where we may have used somebody for a little bit. We may have not been the most kind person in certain ways. And I always me as a person who loves those kind, I do a course called Brutally Honest Storytelling, where I talk about addiction, infidelity. I talk about uh, child custody and all these things. But the thing is, when a person can be honest, I think it almost frees the audience up to be like, wow, I'm not alone. I don't. I felt that way too, or I did that too, and maybe it was wrong, but that's what happened. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
you allow those stories out as well. You allow those stories out of you as well.
yeah. I enjoyed doing my ones about when I went through childbirth. I think I did two TikToks on that. Um, the first TikTok I did is because when my son was born, he was like this color.
Papa was looking at him like,
Which I wasn't expecting. No, but he browned up. He browned up. But just that was like a shock. I was like, whose white baby is this? Anyway, so I made a TikTok on that. And then I made another TikTok on actually going to the hospital.
yeah, yeah.
So,
No, I'm gonna play another one real quick because I like the realness of your stories. The realness of your stories give even deeper insight into like the real experience. Because there's a lot of times when I hear things, even movies or documentaries, and I'm like, because sometimes people they putting on for the camera. Oh, we were so scared and we didn't know what we was gonna do, and they putting on because many times and it's not like what's told. And I think in your stories it's very close to exactly what's told, So I'm gonna play this one real quick. Let me do this. Boom, boom, boom.
we built a house and somebody when we moved from Virginia to Maryland, we built a house and somebody left a flyer in the driveway for the Ku Klux Klan. Now you would think this was like back in the 60s. No, this was in 1995. And the reason why it didn't bother me is because I said I'm not going to let this ruin my experience of buying a house. And people think, why do people always complain about racism? But like half of the things, probably most of the things that happen, we never even publicized. I never took that to the news media or anything like that. Most of the things that happen, we don't even verbalize. We just live with it. I just let it motivate me to enjoy my house because I'm not going to let somebody take away my happiness of getting my house just because they want to leave a Klan flyer in my driveway.
That was real. That was real. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, when I first had the idea to share that thing that happened, I was like, well, what's going to be the conclusion? Because I didn't find out who left it there. So the conclusion was, I'm not going to let it ruin my house buying experience. So it happened. It wasn't pleasant, but I'm not going to let it ruin the whole, experience.
Yeah, yeah. And I love it. For me, it's the realness of that. Because you say when things happen, it's not a stop, stop the press. Call everyone. I have to share that this thing.
Put out an APB, all points bulletin.
If you lived your life like that, it's just too many pauses in your life. You got, yeah, come on. I'm Detroit. Come on back to the house. Let's see. Knock on the door next time. Show yourself. You just passing notes. Be real about it. But I love the realness of that. because it doesn't stop anything a lot of times. It just keeps things going. And I think when people can listen to that, they relate to it from either side, you know. People can relate to it on so many different sides. Do you think about that, like the relatability of stories, or you just tell your stories from your heart and whatever happens happens?
Well, one thing I don't like is like jargon words. Jargon, like, so I try to make it straightforward.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my main goal. And I do appreciate all my family members and friends that have told me their stories. And because sometimes when they're telling me something, I'm like, wow, to me, it's really interesting, to hear about different things that happen in different people's lives.
And then in the comments too, if you have a question, you can leave it in the comments, and we'll get that on stage as well. When you talk about that, because you do use people in your stories, family, friends, old relationships. What's your parameters on that? Do you think about that, like if you're sharing someone else's story, or have you had any blowback from that too? Because you have a pretty strong, you have like 30,000 plus followers, but they're engaged followers, like they're really listening. Because I wait to see a story and I listen. Do you have
I try to ask the family member if they will mind telling me so that I can do a TikTok on it. And so I try not to put in any too much identifying information, but just trying to make it, just a basic, interesting story.
has
And
anybody
sometimes, huh?
has anybody come back to you and said like, hey, I know, you know, I saw it, I saw that a different way.
They haven't told me yet. Maybe they will, I don't know. Hopefully not. But yeah, I try to not make it too, like use their name or anything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think the thing that has caused me the most trouble on TikTok is I don't have control over TikTok. So if they want to pull any of my videos, they can. Like I had done one at the Motown Museum, and they took the sound off of it and messed it up. So I had gone in there to switch the music, and then somehow um, it just wasn't the same. So I just took it out. It just didn't work. Um, so, and also with TikTok, they can take you off if they say it's a community violation. And I did one. It wasn't a story, but it was about the Kent State where the students were shot, and they wanted to take that down because community violation. It's history, and I appealed it, and they let it go back up, but it with a warning thing on top, like, "Do you want to see this as mature, whatever?" And so they still left it up, but it kind of made me mad. And I also had another one that they pulled, which was Jerry Lee Lewis when he married his 13-year-old cousin, and I had put that one on. It wasn't a story, but it was a history, and they were like, "This violates community, child predator." I was like, I'm trying to expose it, that it happened, and you're taking it down. So it's like that's the frustrating thing about TikTok is you have no control. They can take your TikTok down anytime, and you really can't do anything about it.
So you've dealt with that obviously on different, because I've just recently saw that too with the music. Like they I think UGM or UG, whatever it is, the big music company, United Music Group, UMG.
Mm-hmm.
They they didn't make a deal or something, and then all the songs. So I'm like, I probably shouldn't use as much music in my
I know.
TikTok
It kind of
because
makes me.
they'll take it down.
It
Yeah.
kind of makes me glad I didn't use music too much. Now I did use music in the one I did about Foster Silvers, that I wrote a fan letter to Foster Silvers, And I had him singing in the background while I said, "Dear Foster Silvers, I'm on my way to your funeral, but I just want to let you know I have all your records." So, but then they took the music off, and then I tried to fix it, and then I end up deleting my voice. So then it's just a different music without my voice, and then I just removed it because it was too. It pissed me off too much.
I just had the same thing. I got one on Easy E, and it had a pretty good amount of views. It's probably my most viewed story, and then they took out the music, and my voice is gone. So I'm just gonna remove
Mm,
it and then
yeah,
redo it, I guess. But
yeah.
hopefully it get the same attention or whatever. But the thing is, I have noticed that. Now you brought up something else when you said that. You said you were talking about history, and some of your stories in some of the poems that you're doing, they're historic. Like you'll talk about history.
Hmm.
Talk about your background in history. Are you talk about your background in history? I'll let you explain it.
Okay. Well, undergraduate, I was English major, and then graduate, I did American history and women's studies, and the American history, I've just always been interested in history, and so I'm trying to put it in when I don't want to overwhelm people with it because it's like this thing bad happened to black people, then this bad thing happened to black people. Then it becomes a whole TikTok page of just sadness. To me, I can't have every TikTok be about history. So a lot of my history ones are something happy, like the guy that took his case to the Supreme Court so that he had the right to be a pilot for Continental Airways. This black guy who was a he flew planes for the I guess the Air Force, and but they wouldn't let him become a pilot even though he had better scores than the other people who were hiring. So he got the right to fly, and then he flew for Continental for like 10 years.
Yeah. No, I've always appreciated that. Like when you have the historical um TikToks and how you tell the story. I think we fall in love with how certain people share things with us. Like I have listeners too. So just how I might share it and how you share things, I just get more from it because I'm listening. I like you, and then it's like when I'm listening, I like the person or I relate to the person. So it kind of it's clear to me or I understand it better.
Hmm.
So I do appreciate the diversity of the stories because you tell stories about relationships, you tell stories about family, you tell stories about historical moments. Do you how do you determine which story to tell and when?
Yeah, it's just random. The system is randomness.
I like that. Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. That's what I expected the answer to be. You're not you're not putting this through a chat BT a GBT program to see, okay, what's trending right now. Although no hate on that. But
Artificial intelligence is kind of weird because I was trying to think of it. What is it like? And I was thinking it would be like if you met Mr. Right and he had a good income, nice looking, liked you, loved you, and all that, but he never made eye contact with you. So would you want to be with Mr. Right or Miss Right if everything about that was perfect, but they never made eye contact? There's something missing, some human connection that's missing. Even though I'm sure they're going to try to replace all of us with AI, and they're going to try.
no, what you said right there is perfect because something's missing.
There's some element. It's too sterile. It's too removed. Even it's almost there, but it's not. It's something a little off.
I see that in stories sometimes too. Like even in storytelling and stories and in movies and TV, even in books and other things. it's a seasoning. I call it a seasoning to things. And if you've been in it, it's a marination that's happening, you know. And you can't fake it. You can't fake grandma's extension cord. You can't fake uh you know dad not really saying much all the time, but him giving you a hug and saying, "I'm proud of you, man." Or it's not even giving you a hug, just giving you a dap. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man, I like that what you did right there. You know what I'm saying? Certain things, it's just you got to go through them and see them and feel them to know it. Like even being like you talk sometimes about being young and then your platform heels and all that kind of stuff. You can't fake that. You gotta have live the club life for a time frame to know how that is.
Yeah, I made a TikTok which it didn't get that much views, but when I went to the disco, I went to the Robert Treat Hotel in Newark, and then I met a nice guy, but he didn't tell me he was married until we were out in the parking lot. I'm like, so I left, and then you're gonna switch what it is, me in the middle of, you should have told me that before so I could make a informed consent decision. Don't tell me after I already left. I could be back in there meeting somebody else.
But that's real world. See, that's real world stuff that happens. And sometimes it happens in you in a full-blooded relationship. And a person comes out and say, yeah, because even in your stories, like we had deaths in the funeral sometimes, you go to the funeral because of deaths in the family, and you go to the funeral and you find out it's multiple families of this. Find out you got cousins you didn't know you had cousins, and you got, but those things, like, it's interesting to me because this is like real world stuff that happens, real world stuff. And I relate to your stories from that standpoint. I think we have a connection in that point because I'll tell a story like recently on my podcast. I got into it with my ex-wife's son, and these things happen. It's not that people don't love each other, but things happen, and to tell a real story about it is interesting. Yeah.
And the thing that's interesting about humans is something could be so slight and it can have such a big giant impact. So if you're a young age and somebody says, "Oh, your feet are big," or "You're too fat," or "You're too skinny," or whatever, that really can just destroy you. Or you can be around, somebody and all of a sudden they like you and they're like, give you that look of like, hi, like flirting with you, and then like everything's changed. So it's just human nature is interesting.
It is. It is. And when you observe it and share it with others, it's just a fun life to live in that way. Yeah, I see you nodding. I agree with you. I do this thing on here, and I call it "Be Brutally Honest." And I'm gonna give you some categories. We're in Black History Month. I'm gonna give you some categories, and you can choose the category. And then I'm gonna give you some story prompts. And if a story comes to mind, just share a little bit about that story. It's not on the spot or anything. We can talk it out. But you down to do it?
No.
I'm gonna do it anyway. How about that? Look at that. The categories: Black History, Black Love, Black History Month, and Black Family. Black History, Black Love, Black Family. Pick one.
Black history, black love, or black family. I'll take black family.
Black Family. Okay. And I'm gonna tell the prompt if anything comes to mind. It don't have to be on the prompt, but if anything comes to mind, share a little story about it, and we can talk it out if you like as well. Share a story about a meaningful family tradition that has been passed down through generations in your Black family. A meaningful family tradition that has been passed down through generations, or you can say pass, and I'll tell the next story, the next prompt.
What is my alternative to that? I could kind of think of something, but Is it what's
Okay.
my
So
second choice?
the next one is a story about a valuable lesson or word of wisdom that was passed down from parents or elders in your family.
Well, I remember when my grandma, after she moved to Hampton, Virginia, we were in the kitchen, and she had on the table all her medications for her bad heart and everything. But she was very weary. But she said, make sure you get an education so you don't have to be dependent on a man, you know, to live. So that was a good message that she gave to me, and I guess my other cousins, is that get an education so that you'll be able to get a job to have the kind of income that you want to have.
Did it work? Did you go get an education?
I got an education. I got a job. Well, it took me a while to get a job that paid well, but eventually I had to wait until I was like 40. But I did get me a government job, and in fact, I'm getting ready to retire. So I started working for the government in '04, and I'm leaving in 24.
Congratulations to you.
Thank you very
Congratulations.
much.
Yeah,
Thank you very
congratulations.
much. Thank you
Yeah.
very much.
No, grandmothers, that was a thing. Get you an education. And I got it. It's the same thing. I think they came from a different generation. Well, they did, obviously, but the thing is, like, I got my education. I'm the only graduate in my family at Struggle City, for a long time, because it was like you graduated and it was a recession. I'm like, okay, I can't find a job.
I know, because I graduated and then I got like $12,000 a year for my first job, and I'm like, ugh. But eventually,
Eventually it works
if you
out.
hang in there,
Eventually.
you can build your salary up eventually.
Who are your influences or inspirations? Do you have influences?
I guess it's everything, like poets, comedians, singers,
Name
because
some.
because
Yeah.
songs have stories in them too. Um, I really did like Richard Pryor. When Richard Pryor would imitate the different voices of the people in the club, like you could visualize the story of Big Bertha and whoever he was talking about, the wino. So I really enjoyed his stories. Like I told you, Shaka is my favorite singer. So to me, everything she sings is like a story within each song she sings. And Sade too. Her story,
Mhm.
there's like a story in each of her songs that she sings. And I do like movies. I like Claudine or like Philadelphia Story. Um, I just like a lot of stuff.
Yeah. No, I love it. I saw Shaka Khan when I was in New York for a few months, and I saw her at was it King Theater, I think it was, in Brooklyn or somewhere. I don't know where I was, but it was it's a good show, and Shaka Khan be having fun. She was on that verses. You remember? Did you see the verses for Shaka Khan?
Oh Lord have mercy. That was terrible. That was sad. Thank goodness for Stephanie Mills. She was very gracious. I don't know what Shaka took. I don't know if she drank or shot or whatever, but she was out of it.
And Shaka's story is real. Like I like the whole realness of Shaka. I'm in Chicago now. She a Chicago person. But it's a lot of things that come with a life in Hollywood and music industry and all these other things. And Shaka, a beautiful woman still to this day. And
Hmm.
the one thing about Shaka, I had even wrote this on social media when I was at the thing. And how you hold your phone up and you look at the. I was. I feel comfortable saying this. I was attracted to Shaka on stage. Shaka has this femininity about her where she just does this giggle. and I don't know how old Shaka is now, but I was just like, dang, still that giggle. She a little shyness or whatever. I'm gonna do this song for y'all. I was like,
I would say the guy that touches me the way Shaka does would have to be Jeffrey Osborne, because every one of his songs I hear a story in his songs too. To me, he's so interesting because he like is like R&B, but like country. I hear a lot of country in him.
is that the woo woo woo?
Hmm.
Jeffrey Osborne was always in shape too. He stayed in shape. Like Jeffrey Osborne was like one of those. I like it because you didn't know he was in that good of a shape, and then you'll see Jeffrey Osborne and be like, "Dang, Jeffrey Osborne work out, huh?" Yeah, okay, I see Jeff. No, this is wonderful. I love having this conversation with you. I love that we're able to meet face to face, at least online, because I
Hmm.
listen to your stories, and I hope others can see this too, to kind of get to know you and know your storytelling a little better. Um, Anything coming up? Anything that you have planned? And then how can people continue to find your stories?
Just keep following me on TikTok, Instagram. My YouTube channel is kind of messed up because I don't have time to really address it, but I'm retiring, so maybe I'll be able to do something on there. After March is over, I'll start thinking about actually putting something up there. You know, to do these various things, it takes time. And so when people are working 9 to 5, it's really, you got to really put in the effort to make these new things happen. But
No, and we appreciate it. We appreciate you telling your stories consistently over time, because I understand that totally. And knowing now that you work full time doing that as well, I'm looking forward to it. And congratulations on your upcoming retirement as well.
thank
So I'm just
you.
looking forward to more and more of your stories, even in that time, and more of your travels too. I know you got to live your life as well, but
Thank
you share it
you.
with us.
Thank you, tall Shannon.
See, we don't even see each other. We know we tall. Look, know I'm tall. Know you reaching for 5 feet.
You
I
can
love it.
you can say I'm short. It doesn't bother me.
It
I'm
doesn't bother you at
I'm
all.
proud to be a short American.
I
Oh well, you
love it.
can call me petite.
Petite. I like it. I like it. I like it. Thank you so much. This has been a pleasure, as I expected it to be, as I very definitely expected it to be. Thank you so much for joining us on Storyteller, the Storyteller. Mother Boomer is with me today, and we had a great conversation. And I tell you, if you like Mother Boomer, it's going to be more and more storytellers I'm talking to. Next week, I'm talking to Dr. Ray Christian from What's Ray Saying podcast, which is a very good podcast. Listen to that as well. But make sure you subscribe, make sure you like, and come back for more and more stories and storytellers. And hold on for 1 second, Mother Boomer. I'm gonna talk to you on the other side. Thank you so much, everyone.
Mm, mm, mm. Now that's homemade.